Hey, friends. I want to share with you the compassionate work of people who are helping pets. Today's inspiring chat features a nonprofit with the unique mission of helping pets with terminally ill owners find new homes. I recently connected with a safe place for pets, and Carole Casner and Tera Carlile shared about how they serve pets and people who are facing the most difficult moment of their life. Here's their story.
Safe Place was started about 26 years ago by a hospice nurse. In her travels in assisting these people, one of the real persistent themes was I don't want to go until I know what's going to happen to my animal, what's going to happen to my animal. With everything going on in their lives, that was actually the major thing in their life at that moment was what's going to happen to my beloved pet. So she saw a need and a niche, and we are very unique about that in the state of Colorado. And she started Safe Place, just her and a friend, and it's grown and grown since then. And we're continuing that mission as much as we can. A couple of years ago, we did expand our criteria to include COVID people and COVID victims and their families. We've had several cats come in, or excuse me, animals come in, dog too, where the owner has passed away of COVID and the family
Wow.
reached out to us. We also have expanded it to include Alzheimer's victims because that's a tough one too. So that's how we started, and we continue to serve that mission.
So, Carol, as you're talking, you can see some of the cats. They're walking around. They're playing behind you. We can hear them. And I'm curious, where are you guys located, and how has that been a benefit for the safe place for pets?
Well, we're located central in Colorado Springs, and we
Okay.
actually are adjacent to the Colorado Springs Senior Center. It's a great location because, obviously many of our clients are seniors, not all of them, but a good portion of them. And we do get a lot of referrals through the senior community. We also get a lot of adoptions through the senior community. So the last move that Safe Place had in 2018, they relocated here to adjacent to the Colorado Springs Senior Center, and it's actually been a really good location. Uh, we'd like to expand
Yeah.
and maybe house more. Right now, we are set up to house 14 cats in two different catteries, but we'd like to expand on that if we can. So we're looking towards that. We try not to pack them in too much because we're also about the animals and providing the best, healthiest environment for the animals. Many of these animals come in traumatized and overwhelmed because it's bad enough that their human is going through a lot,
Yeah.
but the animals are also going through a lot because many of these animals have been with the same person for 10, 15 years. So we work really hard at providing a healthy, calm environment for the animals to overcome whatever they might be going through. And so we can house up to 14. We don't usually pack them in that tight
Hmm.
because we do want our animals to be able to get out. Uh,
So this gets to a point that I've been thinking about over the last few days leading up to our discussion here, and that is, what the transition is like for the pets. And I want to talk about the human side of this as well, because that's important. We'll get to that in just a moment. But for the animals, think about they have a certain routine with their owner, feeding schedules, walking schedules, so forth. But what's that transition like for the pet when they first come into your facility, and then even when they're first adopted?
um, well, cats are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
They do not like their environment changed. In some ways, they're not quite as adaptable as dogs. So, a lot of times when the cat comes in, they can go a couple of different ways. They can become very fearful, very reactive. They can strike out. And again, this is a fear reaction.
Mhm.
And other cats, animals will completely shut down. They'll bury their face in the back of the kennel and they won't even look at anybody.
Aw.
Sometimes we get animals that are pretty confident, that'll overcome pretty quickly. But the dogs also go through a lot of trauma because they're going through a lot of change. And, the fosters are the bridge, particularly for the dogs, between the owner and the new adopter. So the fosters can do so much to help those animals that are in foster adjust, but it can go either way. We never quite know for sure until we've observed them for a few days which direction they're going to go.
Mm.
But we really try our best to read them the best that we can and provide them what they need.
So who's
And
that guy right there?
that is James Bond.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
JB. That's
that's
James Bond.
James Bond. What a name. All right, I love it. Got it. Okay. And then, so for the dogs as well, I guess maybe on the volunteer side, then Tara, what does that look like for the dogs and their new environments where they're in a like strange new home, right?
So our fosters are really great. We also have that on volunteer match.
Right.
And then, we go to a lot of events with a lot of the other rescues in town. So it's really just this cohesive, amazing environment here in Colorado Springs where we all work together and we really want what's best for the people and the pets. So we'll go to events with just a ton of other rescues here in town. And so through kind of that, we talk to people and, get fosters. Um, and so they kind of fill out a questionnaire about, or application of sorts about how their household is run. So if they have, 5 cats and we get a call about a dog that doesn't really get along with cats, we
Mm.
really can't place that dog with that foster. But um, we do have a pool of fosters that we can kind of look into, and we're able to take most of the dogs that are needing to be placed into our program through the fosters. We have coordinators who will stay in touch with our fosters, especially the first couple of days, make sure that everything's going okay and that everything's going smoothly. If it's not going smoothly, then we have a process for how to kind of help them with any behavior issues and talk them through anything. And sometimes we'll visit their house and help out there.
Got it.
So we're really really hands on, and the volunteers are just they're just, I mean, they're amazing. They really, really are. So
Sounds like they're really plugged in and passionate about helping.
they
Yeah.
really, really are, yes.
Yeah.
And very knowledgeable, very smart about, a lot of them are Fear Free certified, which is a program that, Carole knows a lot about. It's one of the things that's about is that we give animals kind of the choice. We
Mm.
want to make sure that they have as many choices as possible in an environment like this. Um, because a lot of the choices obviously are taken away in a kennel environment versus a home environment. So a lot of them, will look up and do training on their own, and they're just incredible human beings.
Yeah. Well, and as you were talking just a moment ago about the community in Colorado Springs, and that's one thing that's always struck me about the Springs is there is a community, and particularly around pets and animals,
Mhm.
and there's just this legacy I think there in this, around the Springs like that. That I think is really cool, and that's not to say that other towns don't have that, but
Right.
I do think that is something that is ingrained in people who live in the Springs. So,
Mhm.
okay, so I want to pivot a little bit to talking about the human side of this then, and the maybe I should say patient, but for the person who's ill, that you're working with them, working with their families. I don't know, I guess I'm curious just how you even, or how they even become aware of a safe place for pets, and just to begin that conversation. Um, is it through community events or marketing or kind of word of mouth?
Kind of all of
Yeah,
them.
kind of, kind of all of that. Okay.
Yeah. So we do a lot of tabling events.
Mm.
There's a lot of places here in town that will hold like little mini fundraisers for nonprofits in the area. And so we'll go there and we'll join in with other rescues and um, other animal focused places, other shelters, other animal welfare organizations
Okay.
here, sweetie.
Yeah.
um,
Oh my gosh.
so if
Well,
you're
that's good.
talking,
And I thought I heard I don't know if it was a toy noise or something. It sounded like a honk.
Yeah, yeah. JB is over here. He's just batting a lot of toys around, and
Awesome.
so he's quite a character. That's why I got him out because he's got quite the personality.
So you're telling me, Carol, that somebody named James Bond is very playful. Color me shocked.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, uh, yeah,
Likes to have his toys. Sounds
yeah.
familiar.
And you talked about with the animals. He was one animal that didn't have a whole lot of trouble adjusting. He just happens to be one of those real confident, outgoing cats that, and he quickly became a staff favorite because he really knows how to charm everybody,
mhm,
so he's really great. And one thing I just wanted to throw in too
Please.
about our fosters and even
Yeah.
our adopters, speaking of people, is that we go through a very careful vetting process before we place our animals with fosters or adopters. And when we meet with these people, we do promise them that we will make sure that their animal is going to a good place and a safe place,
Right.
in a good home. So we go through a very long vetting process. We do site visits. We talk to these individuals before we place the animals there. So that's one thing. And uh, these individuals that come to us, and like Tara was saying, there we get a lot of referrals from a lot of different sources.
Yeah.
Many times it's a family member or a friend that will call us and say, I've got this, my mom is going to have to go in hospice, what are we going to do? Uh,
mhm,
but one thing that we're very conscious of at Safe Place is that when we promise these individuals that they can rest easy, we will take care of their animals and
Yeah.
make sure that they're okay. We take that promise very seriously. We have had individuals that refuse treatment or refuse to go into hospice or refuse to get assistance or whatever because they didn't want to leave because they were fearful about what was going to happen to their pet.
Yeah.
So we try to assure them that we will do our best and we go to great lengths to do that. And it's one of the reasons why um, there's bigger shelters out there that take in a lot more animals.
Hmm.
But we want to make sure that we're doing right for the person that we've made the promise to, as well as to the animal.
I appreciate you making that point because I think that really is important. It's not something to be taken for granted that you guys are your team is really passionate about what you're doing and is making sure you're serving the animal as well as the person. So I appreciate you bringing that up because I know that's important. And from I guess my experience and experience of family members. We've adopted pets through the prison training program out of
how
Pueblo.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a really great program, and we've had some really great animals through that. And I see how seriously they take it. I guess just as an example,
Uh-huh.
but there is such opportunity, I guess, with animals because they can be put in vulnerable positions and not cared for. So, I mean, I think it's there should be that expectation, and you guys are meeting that from the sounds of it. So that's great. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the organizations here in Colorado, especially. Everybody's doing just the absolute best that they can
Yeah.
with their resources and the laws and things like that. So we're really appreciative of everybody and how much this community cares about the animals. I mean, from the Humane Society
Hmm.
down to the smallest rescue shelter, which might be us. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just everybody is just so you know and completely passionate and completely engaged with the animals and the people of this community. And Colorado seems to have that kind of mentality as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't live in Denver, but from what I've kind of read and seen, they kind of have that same mentality too. So
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, so I've got to ask you then. I mean, obviously, both of you ladies are very passionate about pets. Um, Obviously, you wouldn't be doing this if you weren't. But uh, I would love to hear kind of what drives that passion inside of you. Like, where does this stem from? Is there experiences maybe when you're younger, or just different work that you've done, whatever it might be, uh, that drives your passion for these pets? Tara, maybe start with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure where the pet thing came from. I've just always really, really loved pets. A story that I like to tell to kind of illustrate that is in biology class, there was a mouse being fed to a snake, and I hadn't really grasped that snakes need food too, right?
Right.
Um,
That's true. Yeah.
right.
Nature's not always pretty and hard to swallow, but it is still
Yeah,
nice.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So I thought I was, doing this super noble thing where after school got out, I ran back into the class and found the closest container I could find, which was a tissue box. And I grabbed the mouse out of there and put him in the tissue box and just like ran with my hand over it to my friend's car.
I love this. Okay. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I really don't know. I've just always wanted to, to help animals in some capacity. And I really, really love people. My first passion in animal welfare was actually keeping pets with their people.
Mm.
Um, just because I saw how great that human animal bond was, and I didn't believe that lack of access to vet care should prevent somebody from keeping their best friend with them, especially when their best friend wants to stay with them. That's their best friend too. So it was kind of that bond on both sides that I really wanted to facilitate. And so this is kind of on the flip of that, you get to see just how much people care about their pets, and it goes, this is just another kind of aspect of helping those people ensure that their pets are, you know, it, we kind of take that burden of the grieving process, and we take it onto the organization and we help out that way. And so it's kind of,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. No, that's great. Appreciate that. Yeah. Uh, Going back to biology class, I can see that. I think about the dissected shark that smelled up the room as you're talking about going back to it was very very different experience.
Yeah.
So that
Now,
did
the
not
circle
turn
of
me
life,
on to animals.
yeah, yeah. And the circle of life is, it's important now. I understand, hawks have to eat too, and
Right.
you can't just say the cute fuzzy ones. They're all
It's
important
that
and they're all
circle
great.
of life. It's the circle of life, the circle of
Circle of
life.
life. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so Carol, how about you? What drives that passion for you for pets?
Well, I think just almost, I don't know anybody in this field. You just kind of grow up as an animal lover. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I had all kinds of animals around growing up. And my parents were animal lovers too. So we always just had a lot of animals around. And, uh, you know, um, I did a lot of volunteering with different animal rescue and all that, but I never really thought that much about making a career out of it until
Yeah.
I had a chance to take an early buyout from my first career about 19 years ago. And I did take that early buyout. And I thought, I started looking around. I felt like I was too young to not be involved in something.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking around and I thought, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to try to get certified as a vet tech or a vet assistant or something. And I'm going to go to work in a vet clinic. That's what I'm going to do. And I did take the money. I did go back to school, did get certified, had a couple of speed bumps along the way, um, but I interned at the Humane Society, and sheltering was not really my first goal. But I interned there for 2 months and I just fell in love with it. And I realized that was probably where I could help the most animals and help the most people. So from that point forward, sheltering became my focus, and I've been doing that now about 15 years in various shelters, and it's it's difficult, it's stressful. The hours aren't that great.
Right.
Sometimes the pay's not that great, but it's truly the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It just really satisfies my spirit when I see that happy ending. And you do see some not so great things and not always happy endings in this kind of work. But all of us that do this for a living, we try to focus on the happy endings.
Yeah.
You almost have to, or you can really get overwhelmed by it all. So we all try to focus on the happy stuff.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. So that brings me to my next question that you set up perfectly is what does a good day look like then for you? Carole or and Tera as well ask you, but yeah, I guess we could focus on the bad things, but let's not. Let's focus on the good. So, Carole, what does a good day look like for you when you go home and you're like, wow, you know what, that was really great.
Again, interacting with that client and just seeing the relief on their face, knowing that we're going to take good care of their animal and we will keep it as long as we need to until we find the right home for it. That's a good day. Finding that right home for an animal. We've had animals that have been with us for over a year because we worked really hard at just finding just the right place for them. Finally finding that right home and the right person, and seeing the smile on an adopter's face, knowing that they finally found a companion too. So that's a really good day for me.
That's great. That's great. And Tara, how about for you? What's a good day like for you?
Mine's a little different. I'm at the shelter, but I'm not as hands-on as Carol is with the animals. So all of those things are great days. We have a communication. We use a system where we, kind of celebrate those with our volunteers. So we all kind of celebrate every day whenever something really cool happens.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's, whenever I get volunteers and we go through the orientation and then we just get like a couple of really good ones out of the pool and they just are just so excited about our mission and they're just ready to jump in and you can just kind of tell, orientations are kind of boring in and of themselves. Nobody wants to go and sit for an hour
Right.
and just,
Yeah.
be lectured at. So we try to make it fun. By the end of it, I know I've done a good job if people are like standing up and being like, I can't wait to get started. Can I come train tomorrow? Like, can I tell my friend about this? Like, who else can I get involved with this? And so that kind of looked like a good day for me with the volunteer aspect, or whenever fosters, reach out through volunteer match, I always cheer because I'm so excited about that. So
Yeah, that's great. And your organization is called A Safe Place for Pets, and obviously you're in the business of helping pets, but you're also in the business of helping people as well, right? Both the previous owner who's concerned about what's the future of their animal when they're no longer going to be here, but then also for your your volunteers, your fosters, and other volunteers, and then the people that are coming in and actually doing the adopting. So that's what it sounds like to me. Okay, you're in the pet business, but also the people business.
very much the people business, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, and I'd be curious as well. Going back to the families who are giving you the pets as they're trying to cope with their family members or who are ill and going through some really tough times in their lives, and they're looking at the process at the end of their life, which may not be far away, and that's really difficult time frame for everybody. There's a lot of emotions that are involved, and just a lot of struggles through that. But I guess I'd be curious, when you hear from those family members, what's feedback that you get later on from their end of it, and what they've experienced and how it's been beneficial for them. And that's really for either of you.
Many times, the previous owners, sometimes the previous owner too, but the previous owner's family, we try to keep them involved in the process. We try to let them know that, hey, we think we've got a good potential adopter. We're going to be doing a meet and greet, and so we try to keep them involved along the way until the animal is adopted. And we do ask for pictures from the new adopters. Everybody loves pictures. Our
Yeah.
volunteers love them. We love them. The previous owners and their families love them. It just makes you smile when you see the animal, relaxing on the bed in its new home and things like that. And it also gives that level of comfort to the family or the previous owner that it's going to be okay. They're going to be okay. We try to keep them involved in that process as much as possible until they're ready to let go, I guess you could say.
Sure.
We have had a couple surrenders that wanted to go visit the animal at the fosters, and we kind of leave that up to the foster. If they are accepting of that, then that's fine with us. Uh, but there's that point where everybody needs to move on. Uh, the feedback I usually get is just one of relief. Just knowing that it's going to be okay, their animal's going to be okay. Sometimes we get new volunteers out of that process. The person or the family member or a friend of the uh, uh, owner that passed away may decide to volunteer because they were so happy about the process and they were so impressed about the process. Sometimes we get new volunteers out of that. Uh, we're not always all about the money, but sometimes we get some pretty substantial donations out of that. Um, I know in one case we did get a bequest. Somebody left part of their estate to us,
Oh.
just because they, were so relieved and so impressed with the process. So, um, you know, um, sometimes they just come in and they just want to visit for a while, so that response back can take a lot of different forms. I've been here 3 years and I have not heard a negative response back. So I
Great.
take that we must be doing a pretty good
Yeah.
job at that. uh, Sometimes it's postings on Facebook. We use social media a lot, like most people nowadays. Um, but we've got some wonderful supporters out in the community, and that's true of professional people, veterinary people, hospice nurses, even facilities. We get a lot of good outreach from them. So, um, I like to think we've got pretty positive support out there.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And that's, you bring up a point I didn't even consider, honestly, is the family members may want to continue to be involved and know what's going on and visit that pet. Thinking about my family, and I mean, it's you go over your parents' house and their pet's there. You pet them, you hang out, you play with them. They jump up on your lap. Like, it's part of the, I hate to say experience, but that's not the right term. But you're going over and you're bonding with the animal as you're spending time with your family, even though that's not your pet. So, yeah, I guess that makes perfect sense that they would. There's people that want to continue to be engaged and know, and they're pet lovers, and they want to make sure everything is going well for that pet moving on. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, sometimes and excuse me, I'm
Yeah,
just going to
please.
jump in
Yeah.
here. Sometimes we just had one recently where the person that passed away, her son, she was very close to, well, her son was very close to her. And the dog was the last connection with his mother. So he was very involved in the process, and he wanted to be involved in the process, and we allowed that. So my point being that sometimes there's that connection with the person, their loved one that they just lost, that, this was their baby. So they're going through that letting go process as well.
Friends, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. I learned a lot from Carole and from Tera, and I'm inspired by the work that they're doing to care for pets and for people. I want to thank the entire team at Safe Place for Pets for their time, and you can find out more about animals they have available for adoption if you're interested, or how you can support their unique mission at safeplacepets.org. You can also catch more chats with inspiring people who are elevating our community, here or here. Either way, I'll see you in the next video.